It's Thursday, July 25th, 2019. Digital Trends Live is about to start. Here are some of the topics we're covering today. Samsung has declared that the problems have been fixed, and the Galaxy Fold is finally ready to be launched for the public. We'll give you the details on what that means for you. And tomorrow, Wolfenstein Youngblood shall be unleashed upon the masses. But before that happens, we'll have our own Felicia Miranda on the show to talk about her review of the new release. And some great guests today, including Gabriella Rowe, who is the CEO of Station Houston, an organization dedicated to bringing tech entrepreneurs and startups to the Houston area. And if we have time, we may head to our New York studio with Al Roker. Al Roker is going to be on the show. He's joining us. Jeremy Kaplan may even dare to ask him what his favorite weather app is. We have all that and more coming up on today's Digital Trends Live. Al Roker.
Al Roker, the one and only.
The one and only Al Roker. I wonder if anybody's ever challenged him on weather knowledge. I would never dare to do it.
I would never ever dare, but
Yeah.
I'm sure there's been many contenders
Many people have attempted.
that he's struck down.
I don't see him go out to bars and challenge people on weather. Oh, you want to challenge me on that? And then just boom, he destroys people and goes on to the next place. We'll pitch that show to him. Hello, everyone. This is Digital Trends Live. This is our daily show here from Digital Trends, where we bring you the trending tech topics of the day, news, interviews, headlines, and so much more, all while broadcasting live across a number of different platforms. We're on Periscope, Twitch, Twitter, LinkedIn Live. We're on Facebook Live. We're on YouTube. We're on Dailymotion, Apple News. We're on 2 different mobile apps. We're on a smart TV app and at digitaltrends.com/live. You can find us on any of those places and comment, join in, drop in your discussions, whatever you want to bring up. We will absolutely talk about those as we go through the show. But to start off, I'm Greg Nibbler, joined by Adrian Warner.
Good morning.
Good morning. We have a lot to talk about today here.
We have so much to talk about, so much to cover. It's so exciting.
Yes, indeed. Let's do this. So let's get to the first thing we want to bring up here, and this is the biggest trending story that's happening right now. And it's something that was trending earlier this year, and then for good reasons, then for bad reasons. Now back to, I think, good reasons, and this is what's going on. Samsung has announced that the Galaxy Fold, the foldable phone that they launched way back in April, was when it was originally supposed to be out, is finally ready for the public. Now, to bring you back up to speed on some of that, there were some issues initially, and the phone never actually made it out to the public. So when they sent out the review units to a bunch of different publications, and we received one as well, Julian Chikatu got one, and what happened was the actual screen on the foldable device, it looked like there was a screen protector.
That's right.
So, what do you do when you see that little thing when you get a brand new phone?
Got
there's
that itch to peel it off.
Yeah, you got to take it off, right? Well, it turns out you weren't supposed to take that off because that was the actual screen, a very integral part of the screen, and not well placed, I would say, on the device. And so that happened to a bunch of the phones where it just essentially bricked these $2,600 phones. It didn't happen to ours, I'll say that. Julian said his didn't happen to it, didn't happen to everyone, but enough to where if it's happening to the reviewers, you can't really put that out publicly.
There was a big enough gap in between the bezel and the screen, essentially like a 7mm gap that dust could get in there and people could try to peel it back. Just a whole something so small, but a whole list of things that would make this phone kind of a terrible launch. So it's good that they realized that. It's good that the reviewers got their hands on it first and notified them of it, because otherwise it could have been really disastrous.
It could have been, pretty bad. Now, there's a lot of talk when this did come out that maybe it's being rolled out too early, because if you remember back to the great fold wars of the end of 2018 and beginning of 2019.
Ah, yes, the folding wars.
The great fold wars. You had the Royale Flex Pi, I think is what it was called.
Yes,
that never really took off, but it was a foldable phone. We got to see that at CES.
It did get a lot of really cool hands-on, reviews, but yeah, it didn't really take off. It didn't have quite the high-quality screen that the Fold was kind of putting out there. And I feel like there was another one too, potentially by Huawei.
Yep, the Huawei Mate Fold X. I can't remember the exact name of that one, but they also had one that was going to be coming out. That at least hasn't made it out here to the U.S., but although Huawei is not really in the U.S. that much anyway. So Huawei was going to have theirs. Samsung was kind of the big manufacturer to get this, and it seemed like it was kind of rushed to get that out there. And it turns out it was, because it wasn't quite ready for mass consumption. Even Samsung president and CEO DJ Koh called it an embarrassing affair. He was like, this isn't how we wanted this to happen, and totally understandable. I do think it was good that they took responsibility and they were like, no, let's just not do this. Let's take it off. They canceled the orders, the pre-orders that people had, and just kind of scrapped it. And we didn't really know where it was going to go because they hadn't really given an indication of when this was going to be finally ready.
Right. They pulled them all back, and then they didn't really give any sort of inclination or sort of, preview about when it would come back on the market. And so we're finally getting that. Apparently, it's going to be available to retailers and carriers in September.
Yeah.
This is what the company has said and what they've confirmed. We'll see if it actually still happens.
Yeah, see if it makes it through. I mean, I would think at this point, if they're going to make this announcement, they have to follow up and show it. I don't think they could do another delay like this.
Right.
And they also have their event, which is coming up in a couple of weeks on August 10th. So I'm wondering if maybe part of the announcement is that they want to just get this out of the way and then concentrate on the Galaxy Note 10 and Note 10 Plus and all of that, and push their initiatives towards that end, and not have this just hanging over their head when they go to their big Samsung Unpacked event. So.
I'm curious to see if they'll address it at all, since
Yeah,
it's
if
so
they bring
far
it up.
down the line. And I mean, they've certainly had their share of experience with covering up problematic devices
They have had that happen
recalling
before.
them. So they're kind of experts in this field at this point.
They are. I mean, and they're not. It's not exclusive to them. There's certainly been other issues, but Samsung has had its problems in the past, and they still make some pretty high-end phones. I mean, it's them, it's Apple, it's Huawei, it's LG. Like, these are the high-end, and there's other ones as well. So I'm not excluding anyone in particular, but they are the biggest phone sellers in the world.
Those phone
three.
sellers. Feelings are going to be really hurt, Greg, if you didn't mention them.
I'm so sorry, Nokia. but I mean, they're the biggest ones in the world: Samsung, Apple, and Huawei. So anything they do does influence the industry. So if this thing does take off, and that's, I guess, the next question is, now that we're getting back into the foldable phones, because nobody else came along and got one out. Like, there was that big gap there where somebody could have snuck in and said, all right, well, we have the foldable phone that works, and that could have really been a huge marketing coup for somebody, but this isn't what happened.
Yeah, other phone carriers haven't jumped on this trend quite as much in the U.S. as we thought we would have seen when all of this news was leaking out about the Galaxy Fold. And it's important to note as well that it'll still be around $2,000. Like, it is still a really hefty price tag. And I think that is one of the huge reasons, is that this technology, this folding screen technology, is very expensive. Yeah,
my hope for it, ultimately with this, is that they get this out there, they sell some, because somebody's going to buy it, and it's very high end. I don't know a lot of people that are going to spend that much money on that. You can get an amazing laptop for that much money, or a computer. So the people that get it, I hope they sell some of them, but what I want is this to spur that next innovation, that next foldable phones. And we've heard rumors that they have some other ones in the works, that LG has some in the works, that pretty much every company has some kind of patent out there where they're trying to figure out foldable screens. I like the idea of that one that was...
The rollable one?
Yeah,
like
the tablet.
That was so cool.
That's cool, where it's a normal phone and then you roll out the screen from the sides and then just boom. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's what I'm excited about too.
Yeah, so I want to see where it goes from here. This is a neat use of technology. Again, not going to be for the masses. It's far too expensive, but you have to have these come out before it can get down to the rest of us.
If somebody gave one to you, would you use it?
Yes.
Absolutely,
enough. I would use it. Yeah, if it was given to me, yeah, I would use it. I mean, I would love to try it out just to see what. I mean, it comes down to really what kind of software you've got on it, how the software works. We saw the one demonstration during their event, and it's cool, but I need to have it before I could actually say whether that's something I have to have.
Yeah, I feel like the previews that we've gotten of it so far just aren't enough, and I'm excited for it to actually, after talking about it for so long, I'm excited for it to actually come out, to get some more hands-on demos with it, and to see what it's actually capable of.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, it should be pretty soon that these will be coming out. So September is when they're saying this will be available. So again, the Samsung Galaxy Fold, supposedly fixed and going to be out, according to Samsung. Let us know what you think. We've got lots of articles written up about that. You can kind of catch yourself up on the Galaxy Fold details if you want to there. All right, it's time.
It's time
for Read 'em and Weep. This is where we take a look at the comments that come through across our many different platforms, and we answer you directly. We talk to you. We look you in the eyes. Adrian's looking you in the eyes right now. What did you want to say? You want to type that out again? Adrian's going to respond. So this is what's going to happen. Putting it all on her. So we picked
Thank
some.
God.
So we picked some of the comments that come through, and yeah, we do respond. So that's part of the fun of Digital Trends Live. Unlike those other places, we talk to you directly. All right, JF Ranger, regarding this smart toilet is the future of going to the bathroom. Nothing smart about these, and please, for the love of God, stop adding the word smart before anything with a sensor. You sound like you're watching Star Trek for the first time. All right, that's
really
funny.
good. That's really good.
That's solid.
It's true.
It is true. Smart is added on so many things. I mean, I don't know if we have a choice in some of it, if that's how everything's marketed, but that's fair. That's fair. You do have a good reply there. What I'm going to say is the smart side, it's like adding AI in front of anything.
Right.
Yeah. Digital Trends
smart.
Live, now with AI.
I mean, AI here.
There it is.
Am I real? Who knows?
Right? Yeah. I mean, nobody knows. That's the problem. Well, all right, JF Ranger.
Well done.
Thank you. Excellent work on that. That's perfect. All right, continue to go on with Read 'em and Weep.
Massimiliano Crilio. Nope, that's close. Samsung fixed the Galaxy Fold and it will be available in September, one of our headlines. So they finally found the super glue. Still not getting Generation 1. Fair enough.
Yeah, I agree. That's Generation 1, I think, is not the one, but yeah. The super glue may have, I wonder if anybody did actually try that.
Yeah, if somebody tried to super glue their screen back on.
Yeah.
Found out it didn't work, or weld it, maybe.
It's possible. Yeah, get some welding out there. We'll have to see. But yeah, I agree. Massimiliano. That's a
fun name.
That is a fun name. Yeah, got to agree. At least we can say that. Also, your comment's perfect. Yes. Still not getting Gen 1. All right.
All right, now to the next one, Greg.
The Soundizer AV regarding Bose Active Noise Canceling 700 versus Bose Quiet Comfort 35.2. You have a professional and very considerate approach, Caleb. And also, your videos are getting better. How can we subscribe to your videos only, as I don't want to receive other videos from Digital Trends?
Oh!
Man!
Whoa.
Dang!
Caleb's going to spin off.
I know.
I think that's what's going to happen.
Well, we can't let him see this.
Caleb's trends.
I mean, if he starts seeing this, yeah, Caleb's
It's
trends.
going to go straight to his head.
Digital Caleb, I don't know what it is, but
Caleb.
We've got to prevent him from seeing this because that just can't happen.
Shut it down.
Shut it down.
Shut it down.
Cut this out of the broadcast. We can't let Caleb know. Yeah. Also, your videos are getting better, so I wonder how that's. That is honestly a very nice compliment, but also at the same hand, it's a little bit like, yeah, you're getting better.
You're getting better. Good job. Also, it's throwing everybody else under the bus.
Yeah,
I mean,
know.
It's a shame that our other
It's fine.
videos
We know
are
we're not
well
Caleb.
received.
There's not much
It's
we
fine.
can do. I'm only here for Read 'em and Weep. That should be put on a shirt. Dibs.
Oh,
George, solid idea. We need to make that happen.
We do. We need some merch.
We do need merch. Yeah, before Caleb, spins off and takes all the everything. Let's just get something up here. All right.
All right. Lee Morrison, if a $5 billion fine won't get Facebook under control, what will? They'll continue to use their cash reserves as a shield until criminal charges are drawn against Zuck and company. Threaten prison and then see how quickly they change their policy.
That's a hard stance. There is a lot going on with that. And it's true that $5 billion fine, in case you don't know, so it was the Department of Justice, the FTC, I believe it was, gave them a $5 billion fine. We've got all of this at Digital Trends. And $5 billion fine is...
Yes, he does, Raymond. Yes, he does.
Raymond? I agree completely. And apparently has the best hair in all the videos, too. That's what we've heard from the comments.
I mean, we're jealous.
Exactly. So yeah, $5 billion fine, though, is nothing for Facebook. They made, I think, $55 billion or something like that last year. So it really is just a tiny
drop in the bucket for them. Yeah, it's kind of alarming when a company could give away that much money as just a fine. And
I mean, just like,
on.
That's fine. I mean, honestly, if Facebook wanted to buy goodwill, they should just have a lottery with some of their money. Be like, we're going to, all those scams you used to get where it's like, oh, if you forward this email, Bill Gates is going to give you $1 million. Facebook should just be like, all right, whoever posts in the next 10 minutes, we're going to give one of you $5 million. And then they just do it.
I'm like afraid of the vitriol that would come out of that.
It would be insane, but I kind of would want to watch the madness, but maybe that's not the right approach.
Do you just want to see it all burn, Greg?
I want to see it all burn. I mean, come on, that'd be fun if you won. I don't know. Yeah, never mind. Maybe this is a terrible idea. This is why I'm not in charge of Facebook. One of the reasons. Just one of the
We
reasons.
like you with a soul.
Yeah, that's true. I prefer that.
All right, more smart toilets.
Mr. Elegant, the smart toilet is the future of going to the bathroom. That's a line I never thought I would say, and, twice. I don't need the seat cover automatically opening. That takes too long. I got to flip that sucker up and go. When you got to go, you got to go. Mr. Elegant is passionate about this technology, passionate about toilets. And, you stick with what you know. Sometimes if that's the groove you want to be in, that's what you're into.
Toilet lid timing is very important.
Yes.
Maybe Caleb should talk about it.
I think Caleb should do a video about it. I think that would be a good idea. I'm reading it again. When you got to go, you got to go. I love that you just had to write that out, too. It's like, no, this isn't
so
right.
Compelled to speak up about this.
Passionate about smart toilets of the future. Okay. Well, thank you for those comments. Again, read them and weep, where we take a look at some of the comments that come through across our many different platforms every day here. Shall we continue on with some news?
Let's continue on with some more news. SpaceX has unfortunately had to call off another test launch of its Starhopper spacecraft on Wednesday at its Boca China site in South Texas. Now, the Starhopper is a prototype of its next generation Starship spacecraft from SpaceX, and it's eventually going to be destined for SpaceX's much bigger Starship spacecraft. The video went viral actually online because it shows an alarming puff of fire coming off of the Starhopper craft, and unfortunately the whole test had to be canceled, and it was supposed to launch slightly and then come back down on the ground, and it sounds like some of its coolant was colder than expected, and so they had to just call off the launch entirely.
Yeah, this is part of that continuing test phase to where they're going to be sending people. So this is essentially part of the people pod that's going to be happening. Why
didn't I think of that?
Yeah. So right there. So the Starhopper, which would be combined in, so that's one Raptor engine on there, and eventually they're going to have one that's going to have six, and then there's going to be an even bigger one that could be down the line. And so this is part of this bringing people to space tourism, bringing people to the space station, and SpaceX has had some really great accomplishments, but they also talk a big game. And Elon Musk has said that he believes that he said last week that the Starship could be making a moon landing as early as 2021, setting up a moon base before NASA's claimed time of 2024 of sending people back to the moon. I mean, saying that they could even set up a base. So
he even has claimed that this moon landing in 2021, they could send a crewed mission a year or two later, which is exactly way in advance of NASA's 2024 expectations.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why you have these tests, clearly, is to make sure that you're ready to go. But this is the second one in about a week with the Starhopper. So it sounds like it's as quick as they said they were going to be launching these missions, because earlier this year there was talk that they were going to be sending actually a crewed ship to the International Space Station, which would be the first time. And I'm going to guess with all of these aborted tests that's probably not going to be happening.
Probably not going to be happening.
Getting bumped back some.
And so what was supposed to happen with the Starhopper is supposed to go 20 meters into the air before returning under its own power and then using its onboard technology, which would create the first untethered liftoff since earlier this year. There were a couple tethered launches in April, but this would be the first untethered launch. Yeah. And obviously that didn't happen.
Didn't happen on this one, so we'll see where it goes from there. Again, this is why you test things, so that's not a huge deal in the grand scheme. Luckily, there's no people in there, so that's very good. I just think the really rapid goals or rapid dates that SpaceX sets may need to be tempered back just a little bit. So we're not going to be heading there quite so fast. Still on the path, though.
As much as Elon Musk wants to send space tourism to Mars, it's probably not going to happen as fast as they want it to. Yeah,
so we'll see how that goes when they're able to do another test. The other thing was yesterday, and this was no fault of their own, but the Falcon 9 was supposed to be sending a resupply mission to the International Space Station, along with a lot of really interesting scientific equipment, including a 3D printer that they said eventually could be something you could 3D print organs on. They're going to be testing out all kinds of stuff.
Oh, yeah. And that unfortunately had to be delayed just due to weather in Cape Canaveral, Florida.
Yeah, there's another launch window later today, about 3 p.m. Pacific today, so that would be a good time to watch it, which is also right after Trends with Benefits, which is our Roundtable Tech podcast here at Digital Trends, so very conveniently timed. I appreciate SpaceX delaying that. We go live at 2:30 p.m. Pacific, and they decided to push it back to 1 minute
Well,
after
they had to
our
consult us.
It's true.
Make sure that,
It's,
they came after Trends with Benefits.
and it makes sense. And so we appreciate SpaceX. Thank you for that consideration. And duly noted, we'll make sure to tease and toss into your broadcast after we're done with ours. All right.
Shameless self-promo.
Shameless. All right. Let's continue on with some more news. Let's start some more phone news.
Some more mobile news.
So we know the Samsung Unpacked event is coming up, I think August 10th. It could be off a couple of days on that date, but it's coming up very soon. After that, though, we get into really the phone announcement season, which once a month we're probably going to have one. And September is going to be Apple's event. That's usually when it is anyway. They haven't specifically said, but if they follow what they normally do, September is when we're going to get these new announcements. And that's going to be for the iPhone 11. We've heard a lot of rumors. We've seen a lot of leaks. There's always the patents that get out, and then people put those together and piece together videos, not unlike the one that we are going to show right here. So this comes from a YouTube channel called Concepts iPhone, and it's working with a couple of different people who put this together following rumors. So there's a graphic designer who calls himself Prospection. And that's part of this work right here. But it's combining the rumors from a lot of different sources and sites about what this iPhone 11 is going to look like. And they think this is the most accurate version. I think one of the key things is that 3-camera setup on the back, which could be 4 depending on a plus, but it's that pop-up camera section.
Yeah, what they call the bulge.
The bulge, yeah, not the greatest nickname
Not
for
the
it.
greatest. Apple, and let me be clear, Apple clearly does not call it
That
the
was
bulge.
not an official marketing term from Apple. I'm not. I mean, to me, it's not that big of a deal. But if you're going to buy a high-end phone, because it's, let's be honest, it's probably going to be $1,000 or more, most likely, if it's going to be a new release.
I mean, the new releases,
weird.
It will have at least the 3 different tiers, which they've been commonly releasing. They've, like the last time, it was, oh goodness, the XS, the XR, and then the XS Plus or something. I'm sorry if I'm botching this.
No, that's fine. Yeah, there's a lot of them.
But yeah, this has been kind of the common trend for Apple is to release the 3 of them with these new features, and then that kind of very high-end one. So it could be quite a lot of money, like you're saying.
Yeah, probably will. I'm doubting Apple's going to go for drop their price on anything. Most phone companies aren't. Now $1,000 seems to be the standard for their basic high-end phone. But with that camera setup, I do want to know what kind of software they're going to be utilizing, because that's where it could be cool.
So they're supposed to include a feature called Smart Frame technology, which in that 3-lens camera, it's going to have a bit of a wider view than what is going to show in your frame on the camera when you're taking a picture. And that way people can reframe after they've already taken a photo and reframe that image because it'll actually have more information outside of that frame.
That's cool.
Yeah, it'll be a really interesting additional detail it'll capture. Also, the front-facing camera is going to support slow motion recording.
Oh, nice.
120 frames per second.
Well, I'm all about that. Anytime you can increase that software for the capabilities of something like that, I can get over the visual, the actual physical design, as long as the software is capable of doing something awesome. It doesn't matter to me that much if there's a notch, or I know for a lot of people that does matter.
I know a lot of people are really concerned about the bulge.
Yeah, the
Sorry,
bulge.
I keep saying it.
That is the takeaway. Well, okay, so that's the iPhone 11 rumors. We've got something at Digital Trends. I just realized we're starting to run low on time, but I wanted to let you know about this. If you are looking for a job right now, we may have the job for you if you want to go to the UAE. So this is what's happening. It is
it's a luxury goods website called Hush Hush, and they're looking for a supercar scout.
A supercar scout. So here's what I learned about Dubai and the UAE today.
Very fascinating.
Yes, there's a lot of money. We already knew that. A lot of people have a lot of money there. A lot of very fancy, high-end supercars, Lamborghinis, Bugattis, all of that. Here's the deal, though. In the UAE, if you can't afford your payments, and you start losing ground on your loan, you can't pay it, you go to jail. There's no bankruptcy hearings, there's no they'll repossess it, but if you can't pay it, you go to jail. So what happens is a lot of these people who were just spending money they didn't have and then figured out they couldn't pay their loans, there's no way to get out of that except for escape the country. So they abandoned their cars. And I guess all over the UAE, there's a great article by a site called Drive Tribe that we referenced in our article. So Drive Tribe's got a whole backstory on this, where there's just abandoned supercars all over, and if you go find them, you can negotiate a really cheap price and then ship them back and sell them.
Interesting, yeah.
That's what's going on. And
the job is offering a $38,000 commission for each car found.
Yeah. So
it's very impressive.
So, I think it's $38,000 per year, and then you get a commission.
Oh, and then you get a commission.
Then you get a commission.
I misquoted on that.
Either way, for everybody who just quit their jobs, you're going to be fine. But you can go and apply there for that.
I just want one of the cars.
Yeah, right? Me too.
I don't need the job. I just want the car.
I just want the car.
All right.
All right. I know we need to get to a break because we have a lot to talk about here on Digital Trends Live. Al Roker is going to be joining the show later on. Before we talk about our next guest, though, I want to say thank you, Adrian.
Thank you very much.
Indeed. Back
here. Lovely time.
2:30 p.m. Pacific for Trends with Benefits, right before the SpaceX launch. All right, so coming up, we're going to be talking to Danny Kaplan, Chief Marketing Officer for Cardlytics, talking about how Amazon, basically the impact of Amazon Prime Day and 48 hours, how that impacts everything that we do, how that's changed kind of the consumer landscape. We're going to discuss everything associated with that. If you want to have questions or you have comments you want to drop those in on whatever platform. We'll take a break. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. And welcome back to Digital Trends Live. Wherever you're watching, we appreciate you finding us. Hit that subscribe button to make sure you get the notifications when we do go live. And we like to talk about technology and trends that affect you, affect us, affect everyone. And certainly Amazon has been something that has changed a lot of our lives in whatever way that is, whether it's from selling on there, from buying on there, just changing your shopping tendencies. And we're going to discuss kind of that effect on a lot of different things right now. We've got a very special guest joining us. We have Danny Kaplan from Cardlytics, Chief Marketing Officer. Hello.
Hi, Greg. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for being here. It's fun to talk about this. Just what a huge phenomenon Amazon Prime Day has become. I mean, this year, 48 hours of it, so it's not even really Prime Day anymore. But maybe you can walk us through how this matters just in the consumer landscape.
Yeah. So we're. I'll explain first how we see what we see, because I think that helps put it in context. But as a company, we Cardlytics see about $2.4 trillion in spend a year because we run cashback rewards programs through banks like Chase, Bank of America, Regions, SunTrust, Lloyds, Santander. And so since we run advertising through banks' digital channels, we see spend data at a great scale. So we love to sort of geek out on our data and look at the macro trends about how customers are shopping. So with that said, Amazon Prime Day, when Amazon launched this in 2015, really started to change not just how customers are shopping with Amazon and how they were incenting their customers to sign up for Prime, but it really did a few things. It started to put more and more and more pressure on other retailers, other marketers trying to capture spend, really for back to school, which is the second biggest shopping period of the year. And what it's done since Amazon Prime Day was launched in 2015, it has consistently pulled customer back to school spend earlier and earlier to the tune of a few weeks. So that's really what we've been seeing for the last couple of years, and this year was no different.
I mean, that's huge just from a retailer standpoint. If you have to get your products out that much earlier to be able to compete, and is that just because Prime Day itself is able to do that?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And Amazon, I mean, it's just such an interesting impact. And what we look at, since we look across spend across the whole ecosystem, not just online, but in store as well, you can actually see some pretty interesting things for what that does for back to school. So Amazon Prime Day, with 2 days this year, we obviously continue to see growth for Amazon, but the other retailers in the space, brick and mortar retailers specifically, the traditional retailers, have gotten smarter and smarter about going with that rising tide that Amazon has created. So Amazon, when we look at spend data from last week alone, we do actually see Amazon growing their online spend by double-digit percents. And actually the image that you're showing here shows what's happening in the back to school space. So 79% of people are still spending in a brick and mortar store. Amazon, which would be classed in the little orange part of that backpack, which is online only, continues to grow. But what it has trained other retailers to do, the smart ones anyway, is to really get their omni-channel strategies in order so that they can make it easy for customers who want to do their shopping online. And so this year alone, Amazon has not only increased in the number of customers that came in last week to the tune of double-digit percentages, so have some of the other brick and mortar retailers who have their own online properties in good order and are doing promotions early enough to capture the spend that consumers are laying out there this past week. And what you see on the screen there also is a broader look at what's happening with omni-channel. So it's not just about the fact that online spend only is growing, because it certainly is. Amazon's completely changed the game. But what's interesting is it's not necessarily just about customers who are shopping online, customers who are shopping in store. What we've found that those retailers who have presences in both, if you can get a customer to shop in both channels for you, the customer spends 48% more with you.
Wow.
So it's really just about driving that kind of shopping behavior back and forth. So the smart retailers are taking advantage of what Amazon has laid out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess with Amazon, like you said earlier, you got to kind of ride that wave, because if we fight against it, it's going to be really hard to fight against something like Amazon. So yeah, figuring out different ways to take advantage of it. What do you think this means going forward? As we see, because I mean, I'm assuming Amazon Prime Day is not going to go back down to 1 day next year. I would have guessed maybe at some point we're going to have Amazon Prime Week or something like that.
It's working for them.
Well, yeah, I know, right? Yeah, why stop at this point? How is that going to affect things going on since we're able to pull that, back to school spending a few weeks earlier? What other kind of general trends do you expect going forward after this?
Yeah, I think you'll actually see more folks in the ecosystem start to do their marketing earlier. So right now we've seen a nice little bump for those that are actually understanding how to take advantage of this. There's still a lot of headroom for other marketers to pull this kind of promotional spending forward. You did see companies like Macy's do their their holiday in July, or the Black Friday in July promotion. Nordstrom, Target, eBay, we're doing some interesting things. The big ones are out there doing it. I think there's still a lot of room for all the other retailers to take advantage of it. Because I think what we also see, and this is not just for Amazon, but for all marketers who are getting their back to school and fall promotional calendars in place early enough, customers who are actually buying with them or being acquired by those retailers for the first time in the fall spend 20% more with them in the holidays.
Wow.
So they sort of get this double whammy effect where they get the back to school and fall spend, whether it's with Amazon or other, but they also end up setting themselves up really, really well for holiday. I think retailers are just starting to, the good ones are doing this already and thinking about it as an ongoing loyalty continuum where they have to start marketing earlier. But truly, I think the biggest trend that you'll see next year is more earlier promotions to try to make sure that they can set themselves up really well for the December holidays.
Makes you wonder how much further out it's going to go,
I know it can be almost sickening sometimes if you get the Christmas decorations in July, but it's working. People are ready to shop.
Yeah, I mean, if people are going to buy it, they're going to do it. I mean, that just makes sense. That's fascinating. Just to bring it back to Cardlytics too, just for people to understand what you do and how it affects everything. You give us a little bit of a description at the beginning, but can you just expand a little bit more on what Cardlytics does?
Sure. Yeah, so we're a company that's been around for about 11 years. We're a publicly traded company on the NASDAQ. We went public at our IPO last year. And really what we do for marketers is we use this purchase data that we have in pretty massive aggregate. We see about 40% of all spend in the US across credit, debit, ACH, and bill pay. So what we do is we look at where customers are spending. Most retailers know a lot about where customers and what customers are spending with them. We help them fill in the gaps of where else are they spending and help them understand their full, share of wallet. And the way that plays out is since we can provide analytics to those marketers, we then use those and put those into action in what we would sort of call our own native advertising platform. And the way that comes to bear is we're the only ones that are delivering cashback offers and rewards-based ads for these marketers, targeted based on past purchase history through channels like Chase. So if you were to open up Chase's mobile app and you see some ads at the bottom and it's branded Chase offers, it's a great way for marketers to present advertising in a way that is relevant, in a way that gives cash back. Chase benefits because they're giving something amazing to their customers. It makes them better bank customers. And the customers are actually not just getting relevant advertising, but getting, I think to the tune of $250 million we've paid back to customers since we started the company. It's a pretty unique digital channel that we're reaching, over 110 million customers a year now, and we're still growing. So
wow.
It's sort of hopefully changing the game and how people can present advertising in a way that is helpful and relevant and based on some pretty interesting data.
Definitely is. I can say that I'm a Chase customer, so I have definitely used your product then. So I've taken advantage of that. Well, Danny, thank you so much for joining us here on Digital Trends Live. Fascinating information about that and just how it's changing the landscape, how this all affects us. We're going to have you back on to discuss some more of this once you get some more data in. Really interesting. And thanks so much for joining us here on Digital Trends Live.
Great. Thanks, Greg.
So that was Danny Cushion, Chief Marketing Officer for Cardlytics. Really interesting how Amazon Prime Day affects all of us, something that massive, and how it's going to affect it going forward, more and more marketing. All right, let's take a break. We need to get Felicia Miranda on. She is our video game editor. We're going to be talking about Wolfenstein Youngblood. Comes out tomorrow, and she's going to join us. She's already played it, so we're going to take a break, and then she'll kind of walk through her review of it. If you have questions about Wolfenstein, now's the time to get those in. I'll take a look here while we go to the break, so drop them in now. We'll make sure that we get those questions asked. We're back in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. Thank you for being here with us. Hit that subscribe button, share the show, let everybody know that we are on here every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, and we like to keep you up to date on what's going on in the world of technology, and that includes video games. And right now, we're going to be joined from New York by our video game editor, Felicia Miranda, to talk about Wolfenstein, Youngblood. Hello, Felicia.
Hey, Greg, how are you?
Doing great. Want to talk about this game. I know everybody's excited about it. It comes out tomorrow. You've already gotten to play it. Can you walk us through, though, for anybody who's unaware, just what exactly is going on with this one, and kind of give us all the basics here to start off with?
Okay, sure. So Wolfenstein is a series. It's a very old series. So it came out on the NES, and since then there has been, numerous iterations that have come out after that. Youngblood is kind of like a spin-off to the last two. So there was a reboot, and then there was another game, and now there's Youngblood. Youngblood is a lot different, I would say. So if you're expecting, like if you've played Wolfenstein before, if you're expecting something similar, then you might be a little disappointed, but I will say that Youngblood is tons of fun. So Wolfenstein centers around the video game protagonist BJ Blazkowicz, and he's basically part of the Resistance. Wolfenstein takes place in an alternate universe where basically the Nazis won the World War II. So he's fighting, the good fight, and in Youngblood, it stars his two daughters, Soph and Jess, and they're basically on a mission to rescue their father.
How is this? How is the story mission side of it, and what do you expect from the actual play, like the actual storyline?
So the story's pretty light in this one, I would say. It's still pretty good. It starts off introing like the two sisters. They're funny. It takes place in the 80s, so there's a lot of that cheese. They like to high five each other. They like to do finger guns. Like, they're very bubbly. They're very funny, and it's a co-op game, so that's what makes it even better. You can play with someone online. You can play with someone, like one of your friends. You can also play with AI. The AI is actually pretty good, I would say, but it's way more fun when you play with a friend. And they have these things called pep signals, which are pretty much emotes. If you play a lot of games, you know what an emote is. It's like when you kind of make a gesture at one of the other players. But these emotes buff the characters. So they'll do like metal horns and, thumbs ups and other weird different moves, and it'll like boost their armor or increase their health or even make them invincible for a little while. And that kind of stuff in the gameplay while you're, taking down Nazis. Wolfenstein is great for first-person shooting. If you love first-person shooters, you're gonna love this game. You probably will love the series if you've never played it. You should definitely play it. It's explosive. There are more guns. It's difficult, there's tanky enemies, and when you're playing along with a friend, oh man, it's so much fun.
That's great. So it's you clearly enjoyed it. Walking through what some of the things that you enjoyed, is there any other game that you could compare it to other than another Wolfenstein game, or if somebody who just wants to get into it, like what would you compare it to the most?
Man, that's a tough one. That's a question that we have in our review, and I found it pretty difficult to find something to compare to it, just because Wolfenstein is so unique in terms of like its aesthetic. If you're looking for a cool co-op game, there's Borderlands 2, Destiny 2, The Killing Floor 2. There's a lot of twos. There's a lot of sequels. Yeah, there's plenty of online co-op games out there, but none are quite like, I would say, like Youngblood, just because it takes place in the Wolfenstein universe. And, the shooting in this game is so refined and so much fun. Yeah.
I played original Wolfenstein, but looking at the trailer for this and you talking about it, I really want to play this version. So this is Wolfenstein Youngblood, and you got to review it, and we've got that review that's going to be coming out if it's not already up at digitaltrends.com. I'll double check on that. But we also have a preview of it that's up there. But what kind of consoles is it going to be available on? What kind of platforms? What's the rollout? And what's the pricing?
Okay. Yeah, so Wolfenstein is going to be available on pretty much any platform that you want to play it on. Nintendo Switch will probably be the funnest, I would say, just because you get to lounge in bed or wherever you want to and just jump into that really fun action. PS4, Xbox One, PC. On PC, it will be available today. I'm not sure if it's already available, but it will see an early launch on the PC. You can get the standard edition for $29.99, and you can also get a deluxe edition, which comes with some skins and a buddy pass, which I'll talk about in a second, for $39.99. So as you know, Wolfenstein is a co-op game, so the buddy pass will basically allow any of your friends online to play with you. They don't have to buy the game. So if you really are interested in this game and you want to dive into it with one of your friends, definitely go for the deluxe edition. And if you want to jump in today and you play on PC, you can.
Wow. So does that co-op, is that just for PC, I'm assuming, for that kind of a license?
No, you can play co-op on any of the consoles. It's not local co-op. I should clarify. It's online co-op. So
you could buy that buddy pass and then have anybody join in. That's pretty cool. That's a pretty awesome awesome use of it. Well, again, we've got the review that's going up for Wolfenstein Youngblood. And I don't know if you have anything else that you wanted to add in just about it. It looks really, really great. And I can't wait to play it myself. So yeah, I think we could go take a look there, check out the review, digitaltrends.com. And Felicia, thank you for joining us to talk about this. I am excited to play it.
Yeah, me too. Thanks.
All right, that's Felicia Miranda, our video game editor here from Digital Trends, talking about Wolfenstein Youngblood. It is going to be out tomorrow. We've got the review, but if you got a PC, you might already be able to get it, so let us know what you think. All right, we have more continuing on here with Digital Trends. I will say this, Al Roker will be joining the show later on today, so as we continue through our interviews, we've got lots of news, tech headlines, and discussions to bring you, so we're going to be doing that. Coming up next, we've got John Gorst, who's the chairman and CEO of Ionic Brands, and talking about cannabis and what an influence that has, or what an influence it has on tech and what tech influences on that. So it kind of goes back and forth a little bit there. So we'll have John Gorst from Ionic Brands who's going to be joining us. Again, Al Roker is going to be on. We have Gabriella Rowe from Station Houston, and I'm going to be updating you with some more news at the top of the hour. So stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Did I say I was going to update you on some more news at the top of the hour? No, we're not even going to do that. We're not going to wait that long. We don't want you to wait. We're going to do it right now. See, this is the bonus that you're getting here from Digital Trends Live. Let's talk about some news. So we've got this. I'm going to bring you up to date on a few different things. And I also have word that I believe Al Roker's going to be on very shortly here with us here at Digital Trends. So stay tuned for that. But to get you up to date on a couple of other things, I kind of want to focus on some AI news, some robotics news, some ways that artificial intelligence and robotics are kind of taking over some jobs and how it's going to affect us. Now, so let's talk about an automated follow feature. Let me explain. So we know that there's a lot of different trucking companies that are working on automated and autonomous vehicles for trucking. In particular, those long hauls, the amount of fuel that you can save, the way that they can stack those up and also save on drivers. And drivers get tired. It is a long haul, is kind of a dangerous business. So they've been working on different ways for companies to do that. We've seen a lot of different tests. The U.S. Postal Service has been testing this out even. And there's a company that is working on something right now called this automated follow feature. So it's Peloton Technologies is the name of this company. And they previously had another solution where it was two semi-trucks that would follow behind each other, but these trucks communicate with each other. You would have a driver in each, and they communicate to maintain a certain distance. They can maintain the exact same speed. The truck can kind of take over. They're kind of demonstrating as it's scanning out ahead of it for traffic. It then relays that to the other vehicle, and they can maintain this formation to where they can save on gas, they can save on energy, they can save on all kinds of things. And there you see the two guys kind of communicating back and forth. And that's, again, Peloton Technologies. This is something that they already had. And they're not the only company. You have Daimler working on this, Toyota's working on this, apparently the UK government is working on this, and that concept is called truck platooning. And this is what that really is, where you line them up, and then in theory you could have a bunch of them. Tesla is also, with their electric semis, is working on something along these lines, to where you'd have the trucks follow right along with each other, because you think about the wind resistance, and they're showcasing some of the fuel savings right there. So this new version, the new way it's going to work, is they have something called automated follow, which would get rid of that second driver. So you would have one driver in a truck leading the charge. So this isn't going a completely autonomous line of trucks. There's still an actual driver in the first truck. But the second truck that's following behind, there's nobody in it. This is how the theory would work. Nobody would be in it. It's automated follow. It follows exactly what the first truck is doing. So that first driver, when they speed up, when they slow down, the other truck follows exactly with it. So you always maintain that exact same distance, even down to when you turn corners. So it would follow along with that, completely autonomously following that truck. It's an interesting concept. I want to know what people think about this, though. How do you feel about just a completely empty truck driving down the road, nobody in it, nobody driving it? How would you feel about that? How would that affect you? Like, what do you think about that being on the road with you? I mean, I guess if the technology is fine, I think you'd be fine going down the freeway, although I'd hate to have to try to merge in an emergency merge. You wouldn't be getting in between those trucks. I don't know how that would work. That's something I would be concerned with. But this is a feature that they're working on called automated follow. And again, there's a lot of companies working on these kinds of features. A lot of companies working on electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles. Even like I said earlier, the U.S. Postal Service has been testing it out between, I think, Phoenix and Dallas, although with a driver in there. So this is something that they're rolling out. We'll see how the trucking industry adapts to it, but that's something you could be seeing on the road pretty soon, a driverless semi-truck. So that is what we're talking about there. All right. Continuing on with the news, let's talk about some other ways that autonomous robots or AI are taking over jobs that people used to do for better or worse. Let us know what you think about this. This is one that just came out. This is a video that they just released from Square Inc. Now, you may know Square as the payment taking service. You know, you go buy a piece of pizza, sometimes you pay with Square. We all should be probably pretty familiar with Square Inc. Well, they have another part of their company now called Square Photo Studio, and this is what they came up with. And it's the idea that if you own a small business or if you've ever tried to sell anything online, you know you have to get that really good picture of the product. And sometimes that can be really hard if you don't have the pro equipment to do it. If you don't have the right lighting, the right background, the right camera, it can really affect how your product is presented online. And that's just a basic part of retail or a basic part of anybody trying to sell something. And photographers can be expensive. It's not cheap. It takes a lot of money to buy all that equipment and to be able to do that and that skill set. Well, this is what Square Photo Inc. or Square Photo Studio, is trying to get around. What they're offering is for $9.95, you can send in your product and you can get 3 photos from them that is a professional, well-lit photo of your product. So the way it works is this. They have a $20,000 robot in a warehouse in Brooklyn. This is how it all starts out. $20,000 robot in a warehouse in Brooklyn. And they've got this set up with a white background. They've got a Nikon DSLR. It's attached to a mechanical arm. And what they can do is you send in your product, you actually mail it to them. You have to pay for the shipping. They will take it, set it up, get you 3 different angles. They can take it however you want. You can leave instructions on something you want. They can also take a look through this. They can even provide 3D scans of your 3D model, and they can deliver an animation of all sides of your product for $30. That is incredibly cheap for something along those lines. To have a professional 3D animation of your product, I mean, you look at the way Google is switching to more AR marketing, 3D models of products. This is something that's starting to roll out. That's where this could come into advantage down the line. This could make the difference. $30, you get a 3D animation of it. $10, at least ostensibly that's what it is, plus you're shipping in. $10 would give you 3 different photos of it. They can return it within 14 days, and you mail your product to them, and then they mail it back. You pay for shipping both ways. But that's what they're working on. Square Photo Studio. Pretty interesting use of that technology, but what do you think about that? How do you feel about it? Are you a photographer? Probably not super stoked on this, but that is what they're going toward, and I can see the advantage for small retailers just for that much cheaper way to get a good quality image that could be the difference between a few sales. A couple of sales you've paid for itself, so we'll see where that goes. We can check more about that at digitaltrends.com. All right, and our final story here before we go to a break, where I believe Mr. Al Roker is going to be joining us after the break. Let's bring you up to date on one more artificial intelligence, AI use that we're seeing out there right now. And this is one that's trending, and I wanted to bring it up because we all know what happened with the fake photos from last week, or with the photos from last week with Face app. And this is something that's a little bit different, probably not quite as scary, and you don't have to worry as much about the data. But it is using your photo, and it is using AI. So it's called AI Portraits. And I'll say this right now, there is AIportraits.com, but so many people have gone there that the last I checked, the website crashed. So you may not be able to get there and do it right now. But it's coming from MIT's IBM Watson Lab. So it's an MIT experiment, and they do a lot of artificial intelligence and neural network experiments. And it's turning your photo into a classic portrait, like a Renaissance portrait. And Renaissance portraits have a very specific style. It's this Western artwork, this very specific style where if you see one, you're like, oh, yep, that's a frowning face and somebody who looks sullen and probably not having a great life. That looks like a Renaissance portrait. That's my interpretation, but I mean, really, they're never smiling. And this is what it can do. So it takes your photo, turns it into that. But it's the process that's the really interesting part of how the AI works. So they scanned 45,000 portrait images to train this program. So it includes paintings by Van Gogh and Rembrandt and others. And in order to do it, it runs it through a series of different scans. So it's not even just switching your photo. It's not like a Photoshop thing. It's actually rebuilding your photo, taking a look at what you look like, and it's rebuilding it layer by layer into what that would look like in a classic portrait. So that's where the real artificial intelligence works. And it's got 2 different AI networks working at the same time, predicting where the next spot should go, counteracting each other, and it goes through several different layers. So it's almost like it's painting it painting a portrait of you artificially on how that would look. That's really what I think the interesting use of it is, and how that could be applied to different things. How do you feel about that if you're an artist? I mean, clearly there's not a lot of Renaissance portrait painters out there that you have to worry about, but where that could be applied to and how it looks. I mean, they really do look like AI, or look like Renaissance portraits, and in that, that classic European style. So it's an interesting use of technology. You can check more about that at digitaltrends.com and let us know. Keelan, I'm already a classic portrait. Oh, yes, you are, buddy. Yes, you are. All right, so that is, I want that website to work so bad so I can get a portrait done of Keelan right now. But that's what we're looking at. So that's a little bit of artificial intelligence news, some robotics, some different trending stories that we want to make sure that you're up to date with. And every day here at Digital Trends, we'd like to keep you up to date with the news. We're going to take a break. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to take a break. I'm going to come back. I'm going to introduce Jeremy Kaplan, our editor-in-chief from New York, who's going to be standing by with Al Roker. Al Roker is going to be here on Digital Trends Live. You do not want to miss this. Stick around. Back here in a minute with more DT Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. We broadcast live every weekday at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you tech headlines, news, interviews, and discussions, all while we're live. So that means we can have these conversations together with you back and forth. And we love doing this show for you. We hope you join us every day. Hit that subscribe button. But right now, I'm here in Portland, Oregon, but we need to head to our New York studio where Jeremy Kaplan, our editor-in-chief, is standing by with none other than Mr. Al Roker. Without further ado, Jeremy, I'm going to toss it to you.
Be here as always. Thanks for the great introduction. We have a real treat for you here today. We are joined by none other than legendary Al Roker. How do you describe the man himself, Al Roker? Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Jeremy. Nice to be here.
Most people know you as the weatherman, the anchor on the show, of course, but you're so much more than that. You do Al Roker Entertainment. So could you explain, just for starters, what that's all about?
Well, it's I started a production company back in 1994 to actually 1992.
Back in the day.
Back in the day, to kind of go on the internet. Nobody quite knew what
that
this
was. Almost before there was an internet.
Yeah, and I just found it fascinating, and almost like I thought maybe this could be like radio in the 1920s. I don't know what it's going to do. Who knows? But to the point where, at the time, I asked NBC, my employer. I said, I want to do this. I want to do a web page and like a.
And they're like, "What's a web page?"
And then what do you? Okay, sure, go ahead. So for the longest time, I was the only NBC person who actually had his own web page, and just thought I would put like some daily cartoons on there. I'd draw some cartoons. I'd write a diary.
And that was about as complicated as the web was.
That was it. That was it. You know. It was funny. I used to do. Okay, do you pronounce it GIF or GIF?
I always do. I say GIF.
GIF, yeah. I kept saying GIF, but that's because I like peanut butter.
GIF is a peanut butter.
Yeah, exactly. But I would do these like kind of little animations, and it was so funny. They were all the rage back in the early mid '90s, and they went away, and now they're back, bigger than ever.
Yep.
It's like wow.
Old as
everything
new
is
again.
old as new. Very much like myself. But anyway, so I started that I started Al Roker Productions to do that, and then I started producing shows for the Food Network. I was doing some specials.
Okay.
And I little known fact, I never wanted to be on TV. I wanted to be a writer or a producer. And at the end of my sophomore year in college, through a series of unfortunate events, I became a weather person, a TV weather person. But I've always wanted to produce. So I got the opportunity to produce these shows for the Food Network, and so I started a production company.
Is that more of a passion for you? That
Yeah, I think
they're
so.
both fun,
It's fun.
right?
It's both. I like TV. I like watching TV. I like being on TV.
Sure.
So I get to satisfy both sides.
So what type of content are you creating these days?
I think we don't really limit ourselves. We do everything. We've got some scripted television, some scripted content in production or in the pipeline. We're right now actively working on an animated project with a network.
That's fun.
It's another one of my passions is animation.
Speaking of old is new again,
Yes,
that had a
yeah.
huge resurgence.
Oh my gosh, we do branded content that also does some social good. We do.
I wanted to ask you about that, actually.
We do a little bit of everything.
Well, what's your take on social good? How are you guys using these new platforms to push that?
We produced a branded show that Staples was one of the sponsors called Girl Starter, and it was kind of like a millennial female Shark Tank with tasks but more collaborative and less competitive. There was a competitive component to it, but it really kind of I think was a lot more compassionate.
Okay.
We did a show about childhood hunger for ConAgra. 1 out of every 4 kids in this country go to bed food insecure. Sure. Not sure when's their next meal. We did a Operation Homebound for Eckrich, the meat company, to help wounded veterans get home housing. So I think there are companies out there that and our take on it is that the product has to stand on its own, and the brand can't be obtrusive. The brand needs to understand your brand will be much more accepted and your message much more received if this is done organically and not banging somebody over the head with, "Hey, buy this because it's great." If you do. Like, for example, our ConAgra show, the journalism in it, I was proud, I think, and had to meet, it aired on the NBC owned and operated stations, it had to meet NBC News journalism standards. So I think there is a certain less is more, I think, value.
And I think there's also a real hunger for that kind of a story.
Yes.
Because there's this, I say this all the time on the show, there's this narrative in the media, we're responsible as much as everyone else is, for blaming technology for a lot of ills in our society. At the same time that there are companies that are doing good, and there's too much focus on the negative and not enough focus on the positive.
Yeah, look, there's good and bad in everything, but I think, if harnessed properly, you can help right a lot of social ills.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to see that you guys are trying to change that narrative.
Yeah, I think it's important to take responsibility for that, and recognize what's wrong. But there are corrective measures that can be taken.
Yeah.
I think, and I think if you do it with a certain amount of humility, and not I know the best way, that I think you can really affect change.
Well, that's great. Well, since we're talking a little seriously here, let me ask you a serious question.
Sure.
You're a band that's built your reputation on the trust that comes with presenting information to the viewers. I think trust is an issue that people have these days with media. What's your take on what's going on there?
Well, I think.
Or is that just a construct?
I think there's a certain construct to it. I think at the end of the day, I think people trust people they know, which is why I think certain brands do better than others, because they've known them, they've trusted them, they feel like there is a pact, and that pact has not been violated. I think other brands may have taken advantage of that, but I do think that there is there's a certain narrative that is extended to a certain group of people that yes, this is the media can't be trusted. I think that people somebody like Lester Holt, still, people trust him. He's the most trusted anchor in America.
Sure.
And I think people know what outlets can be trusted. And I think that that sometimes people don't give the viewer, the consumer, enough credit.
Definitely, I agree.
And I think that's for example, like you talk about climate change. I think the American public is far ahead of their elected representatives when it comes to climate change.
Absolutely.
They know that something's happening. You don't need a weatherman to tell you which way the wind's blowing.
Well said, sir. So while we're talking thorny issues, what's your take on social media these days, which is receiving the same sort of abuse? I think there's a confusion around the role of social media in our lives these days. How much is too much? Is it actually a force for good or a force for bad?
I think.
I'm just curious on your take.
Well, no. I do think it. I think it's both. I think listen. I've got a teenage son. I've got a millennial daughter. And what's after millennial? My one daughter's like on the cusp. She's 32. Is that still a millennial at this point?
Or is that Gen Y?
Or is that Gen Y? See, who knows? Who knows?
What's with all these labels?
And that's the problem. It's labeling. We are people. Look, I think millennials get a bad rap. I think there's this. They create a demographic, as we all. And here's what the millennial. No, they're individual people. They are not a monolithic demographic.
Exactly.
Within any demographic, you're going to find a spectrum. So, I think social media companies have the worst of them. I think pit those groups against each other.
Yeah.
I think social media, life could be made much more simple if they were just transparent. Okay. Don't your terms of service. Nobody reads them.
Oh, it's pages.
We're not going to read them. So you embed as much crap in there and stuff that you're going to exploit. How about a one-page term of terms of service?
Or back to Google's old statement: "We will do no harm."
Yeah, and boom. We're not going to sell your stuff. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that.
I like that.
It can fit in a page.
I like that a lot.
And whatever social media company did that, you've got my business.
If there's a company that would do something like that, it's Apple. And I noticed you've got Apple Watch.
I do have an Apple Watch.
I saw you had an iPhone before.
I've got an iPhone.
Speaking of brands one can trust.
Yes. I like them. Look. Yes, from what you read, Steve Jobs smelled funny. Okay, well, what are you going to do? Nobody's perfect.
I smell funny. Let's
look. I didn't want to bring that up. It's a closed room.
You're a good man.
It's been a little close.
Let me ask you one final question,
yes,
if I could. I don't want to ask you what the weather is, but I know you're a tech fan. What's your favorite weather app? What do you use on a daily basis?
I go to. It's not really an app. But I go to the National Weather Service website. I can get a lot of geeky stuff in there. And I think what happens is a lot of these, they annoy me. The weather apps,
sure.
They do. Because because my family tends to believe them over me.
That's not fair.
It's not fair. It's not right.
What's a guy like you to do?
My wife will go.
What am I, chopped liver?
They say. What do you mean? I'm they. I'm they. Stop with it.
I'm a big fan of the dark sky. That's a very.
I like the dark sky, but first of
app.
all, it's a little. The name itself is a little negative, a little ominous.
I'm with you.
Dark sky. It's like somebody developed this who worked on Game of Thrones. Dark sky. Why not blue sky?
Winter is always coming.
Well, yeah, that's like the ultimate forecast. Winter is coming. Well, yes, I know that.
Always correct.
It's always unless it's spring. Then it just passed. But it's still, the next one's coming.
I'm going to build an app that just tells you that winter is coming.
Winter is coming.
It's correct 100% of the time.
Winter is coming.
Victory.
Can't go wrong. And guess what? Spring is coming.
Well,
so is summer.
That's your app.
But that's it. Why go with winter? Nobody likes winter, unless you're a ski resort. But people have negative connotations. Why be negative?
You heard it here first. Why be negative?
Blue Sky. It's a new weather app. Everything's great. And guess what? Here's our term of service. You use it, you like it. You don't, see you later.
Al, it's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you very
Sorry
much.
I got all
for
worked
coming.
up there.
No, it's great.
You actually smell like unicorns and lollipops.
I love it. You heard it here first. Plenty more great tech stuff coming up. We're just gonna
Is
take a
there
quick
really?
trip.
Winter
There
is coming.
I promise.
Plenty more tech stuff is coming.
Winter may also be coming.
It could be.
We'll be back after
Who
these
knows?
messages.
Will we be back? Will we? Will we really? You will.
I will.
Not me so much.
All right, thank you to Al Roker for joining us here on Digital Trends Live, and thanks to everybody who's watching the show right now. We appreciate it. We're live every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you tech headlines, news, interviews, discussions, all kinds of things while we're broadcasting live, and that means we can have the conversations with you directly, and that's what we like to do here at Digital Trends. All right, I'm Greg Nibbler here at Digital Trends Live, and joining us now here on the show, we have Gabriella Rowe, the CEO of Station Houston. Hello.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. You know, we see it with a lot of different cities kind of changing their mind frames and aiming more towards technology and innovation. And certainly that's something that the city of Houston is doing. But I want you to kind of explain that to us. And maybe if you could walk through, for everybody watching, what exactly Station Houston is, and then we'll get into some of the specifics.
Absolutely. We are the largest tech acceleration hub here in Houston, Texas, which means we have about 200 companies that are actively growing and incubating here, about 750 members, get about 18,000 visitors coming through here every year. So a pretty busy, bustling tech hub.
So for Houston as a city itself, has it always been tech forward, or is this an initiative that's kind of started in more recent years?
Well, I think innovation forward would be a better way to describe Houston, but not tech forward at all. So Houston is a place where there have always been big innovations. You know, we just came off the 50th anniversary of the lunar landing, and you think about all of the chip development that went into that 50 years ago, all the tech. The same thing for the energy industry, largest ship channel in the world, largest med center, first artificial heart transplant. So incredible innovation, but it all took place in these very closed, siloed environments like NASA, for example. And as great as those innovations were, they weren't collaborative, they weren't broader, they weren't, people facing, so to speak. And so the world of tech innovation that really thrives on collisions and density and learning from one another was not really what we saw here in Houston. It was a foreign way of working and something that we've had to learn how to do as a city.
That does seem to be, definitely in the world of innovation or technology, that cross collaboration between companies. I can do this for you, you can do this for me. It's very much kind of a symbiotic relationship, even with employees going from one company to another, or spinning off and starting their own company. So I definitely understand how that can be an important element that a city would want to have. What are some of the things that Houston is doing to help foster that?
Well, I think it's taking advantage of all of the things that we already do well. So we have more Fortune 500 companies in Houston than any other city in the country other than New York. We have more engineers per capita than any other city in the United States. We have all the raw material and the talent to make innovation happen. And quite frankly, we have the big problems to be solved using tech. It's about making the connections. It's about creating that density, creating those places for collaboration, and as we like to say, getting everyone to row in the same direction. something that's only really recently started happening in Houston. It's made a huge difference.
Let's talk about the city itself, living in the city. What are some of the advantages for somebody, say there's an innovator out there looking for somewhere to launch their business, and Houston's one of the options. What are some of the advantages on that end?
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to give you the New Yorker move to Houston perspective, because I came here 5 years ago. So,
well, perfect.
From the relative newbie standpoint, I will say we are one of the most culinary forward cities that I've ever lived in, much more so than New York. And part of that is because we are the most international city in the United States. So 1 in every 4 people in Houston was born in another country, which is quite an astonishing statistic. And the reason why I think that's particularly important for tech companies that are coming here is it makes for a really open and inclusive business environment. This is a place where everyone will give you one meeting. From the CEO on down, it's easier to sit down and have funding conversations. It's easier to get mentorship. It's easier to connect with the kinds of people within enterprise that you need in order to grow your business, particularly if you're solving the problems of those businesses.
You bring up the fact that it's the most international city, and that's fascinating to me. I didn't even think about that you said 1 in 4 people isn't from somewhere else. That certainly is an advantage when it comes to companies for more diversity and more voices. And how can we, I guess, let's speak to that maybe a little bit from the Houston angle of how is that an advantage for people wanting to move there, and what kinds of advantages are there even for maybe like female entrepreneurs who have been certainly faced a lot of obstacles and unfair obstacles in going through innovation, going through companies. How can we help solve some of that with Houston?
Well, and I think that's a place where Houston really is tech forward in ways that other places are not, and it shows up in the statistics. We were just voted the #1 state for female founders and female entrepreneurs in the country, and Houston itself was the #1 city for diverse entrepreneurs. So that means international companies founded by diverse ethnic individuals. This is the best city for them to do that. And the reason is because we're used to working in those diverse, inclusive teams. When you come in as a female founder, you're going to be respected based on your product and your company. You're not going to be viewed in a gender forward way. And that's incredibly unusual in the startup world. It's particularly unusual in the tech startup world. We're finding that's a big asset in growing our startup base.
I think, that would definitely be an asset for any organization or a city in general. And, here at Digital Trends, we talk about technology a lot, clearly, because we're a technology publication. And I wanted to know, from a city standpoint, I know there's some initiatives towards integrating smart cities, as far as integration of technology into so many different aspects of it. And I wanted to ask maybe what Houston's policies are, or maybe what some of the initiatives are for that smart city side of things going forward.
Absolutely. Well, I think that, to talk about the smart cities efforts, you have to start with first, what kind of tech is really flourishes in Houston. And that tends to be the business to business tech. It's tech that's working in medicine, in med devices, in innovation, in energy, aerospace, things that we like to call dirty and dangerous, and work really in the essence of how do we work with man and machine together. Smart cities is the most fundamental form of that when you're working in an urban environment. And as the 4th largest city, almost the 3rd largest city in the United States, what better place than to build those significant smart cities efforts. We also happen to be a city that has in recent years faced some real crises, particularly around issues like flooding. Hurricane Harvey was really a catastrophic event in many ways for Houston, but one where we saw that when we all pulled together as a city, which we did, we were able to turn things around very quickly. We've now taken that same mentality of collaboration into our focus on smart cities, where we're particularly targeting both resiliency and mobility. We have partnered with both the city of Houston and Microsoft and Intel to develop a smart cities accelerator that, unlike many of the other smart cities efforts around the country, is focusing on the problems of communities as opposed to starting with the sexy tech. And not that we won't have our fair share of sexy tech, but instead we're going to the grassroots and communities, because we want our tech to be accepted. And I think there are many of us who are working on smart cities who see some challenges arising from the public acceptance of what smart cities means in terms of privacy, what it means in terms of which neighborhoods are we implementing this tech, and is it really being done for people's good, or is it being done to somehow survey or observe or keep an eye on their movement? And so we've decided to start on the grassroots so that we can get that buy-in from the very start here in Houston, so that we really can use tech to change the way in which we answer crises like Hurricane Harvey, but also just make our city more effective and more efficient every day.
I think that's a great approach. There's a lot of questions we all need to be figuring out and answering when it comes to smart technology, because it's happening so fast, things are changing so quick. We need to make sure that we do it right. So that's an interesting approach, starting from the ground up for Houston and for what you're doing with that. Well, for the final question here, just for, say there's an innovator out there or somebody who's got a small business, somebody who's got a company that want to go and take advantage of what Houston's offering, what would be the first step for them? Where can they go to get more information, and how do they proceed from there?
Absolutely. Come call us at Station Houston. And if we are not the right starting place for you, we will absolutely connect you with the right starting place. And my favorite part about Houston is that it's the largest small town you will ever move to. You can get all of the great advantages of being in a big, bustling city, but you also have all the advantages of people caring and really stepping up and listening to what is your idea and what is your business. And that's not true of a lot of large tech ecosystems in this country today. We have that advantage. Come see us here at Houston, and we will make sure that you have a successful home here in Houston, Texas.
All right. Well, Gabriella, thank you so much for joining us here on Digital Trends Live to talk about this. Congratulations on the steps that you're taking forward there with Houston. And now you've convinced me I want to go down there and check it out now. So that's clearly going to be on my list. So thanks so much for being here on Digital Trends Live with us.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right, so that's fascinating, learning what Houston is doing to help foster that tech and innovation community. And we appreciate everybody who joins us here on Digital Trends Live every single day. It's been another show. I want to go back, though. I want to kind of give you the recap, the rewind, if you will, of what we've talked about today, just kind of get you up to date on that. So we had Adrian Warner in here in the beginning talking about the Samsung Galaxy Fold. It's coming back September. You might be able to get one or get your hands on one. Let us know what you think about that, all kinds of other news. We had Danny Cusham from Cardlytics, Chief Marketing Officer for Cardlytics, talking about the effect of Amazon Prime Day and how that's changing all of our spending habits. And all that marketing that you see, it may get pushed up sooner. So we may get Christmas trees in July. I don't know. Maybe not that far, but it's coming. We had Felicia Miranda, our video game editor, talking about Wolfenstein Youngblood, which is coming out tomorrow. Unless you have a PC, you might already be able to get it today. But we've got a review up at Digital Trends, a walkthrough. We'll tell you what to expect, what you should be looking forward to with that. Let's see, continue on. We had, well, Gabriella Rowe, who was just on here, and am I forgetting anyone? Oh yeah, Al Roker was on the show. Al Roker from New York. Al Roker. Thank you, Al Roker, for being here, along with Jeremy Kaplan, our editor-in-chief. That was really cool. So share that show, share those interviews, hit subscribe, and that's the thing with Digital Trends Live. You never know who's going to show up. I'll tell you a little bit about tomorrow. We got Ryan Juanita with Between the Streams, so we're going to be bringing up to date on movies and entertainment. We have Ken Young from Flipboard for Tech Briefs, where we'll catch you up on a bunch of the news. But then we have lots of interviews, lots of discussions, lots of things going on here, all while we're broadcasting live. And while I've got you here, don't forget at 2:30 p.m. Pacific, 5:30 Eastern, we have Trends with Benefits, our Roundtable Tech podcast. We're going to be talking about the future of transportation, where it's going, kind of where we've come from, and where we're at right now, where we're going to be going in the future, and what we would like to see. And that's jetpacks. That's what we all want, jetpacks, I think. But we'll talk about that all live on these platforms as well. So hit that subscribe button. I'm Greg Nibbler. Sincerely, thank you for watching us. We'll be back tomorrow with more Digital Trends Live.